So I kind of wanted to talk early in the stream, as soon as the stream started, about Overwatch 2. Seagull has a video out. I think he uploaded it 3 days ago, so pretty much at launch of Overwatch 2. He basically put I think it was like a 10-minute video out about the state of Overwatch. So just like what he did a few years back, he gave a pretty in-depth explanation about him criticizing Overwatch, as well as the dev team, and a bunch of other things. And it actually shook the entire Overwatch community. Everyone was talking about it. People were talking about it in streams. People made videos responding to it, all sorts of stuff. I wouldn't be surprised if the devs took it to heart and probably got him on a phone in some sort of email conversation, talking with him about what he thinks about the game. Because Seagull's a pretty big content creator by himself, but he's also a huge player when it comes to Overwatch, having been in one of the Overwatch League teams, the inaugural season too. He put out another video. He's basically spelling out he's kind of disappointed in the way the game is right now. And I watched the video this morning, and I'm inclined to agree with that level of disappointment. He basically outlined that Overwatch took a break, or the dev team particularly, took a break from putting content into the game, instead trying to focus on the PvE experience, actual Overwatch 2, to then bring to us. But that was also their original intention with the game, which I thought was kind of interesting. I did know that, but I didn't think about it critically. They wanted to make a persistent sort of MMORPG. Sorry, I couldn't get the word out. I wouldn't say something similar to Destiny 2, but nonetheless something that goes along those lines. And that was Project Titan back in the day. And they scrapped that idea. They quickly changed the entire concept up to then come out with Overwatch, which at face value, day one that they brought it out, was this sort of competitive shooter, FPS. But ever since the game came out, the iteration upon iteration about balancing the game modes, map control, map changes, so much of it really does ring out that it never should have been a competitive FPS. And by extension, the Overwatch League should have never existed. Because if you look at the game now and what they've changed to make it more of a competitive FPS is completely different than what they originally did. And the Overwatch League came out, what, a year-ish? Or they started talking about it a year after launch. So they wanted to bring about this sort of massive esports thing, but that got me thinking, why? Was the Overwatch League and competitive Overwatch ever gonna actually be competitive? Because I thought it was. But based on the changes that they did and where the game is sitting now compared to what it used to be, there's no way. It's both systems are completely different. Again, it's still relatively chaotic. Like, there are so many characters in Overwatch where you could just, blindly start shooting down in Valorant, a common peek angle. So if you peek down that, and if you're a support player, and I got plenty of kills, even in the original Overwatch and this Overwatch, plenty of kills of just shooting down a main sight line and just getting a random frag. And you're almost surprised, like, oh, I got that kill. Meanwhile, in a game like Valorant or Counter-Strike, you more or less earn all of your kills. Sure, you might throw a piece of utility that does damage, and it might kill them. You might spray through a wall and be like, oh, ooh, cool, I got a kill. But more often than not, the skill required to play this game, I think, is still considerably above what you do in Overwatch. Now, Overwatch's change and balance changes that they made now to make it seem a little bit more skillful and a little less random. And they've even done things a little bit better to make it so certain characters now require a little bit more skill, and they're not so much a no-brain Winston main sort of deal. You just jump and hold left click. Hopefully you get kills. Hopefully someone pockets you and heals you up, and you keep going holding W, whatever you want. That style of play, I'm glad they got rid of, and it gives every one of the characters a little bit more agency in how they play. Granted, the kill time, or the time to kill, I think when it comes to squishies, not the tanks. The tanks are fucking crazy. But the squishies, time to kill for the squishies is pretty damn quick. And I guess it's kind of okay the way the respawn and all that works. But I'm actually... So on Monday, we're going to play the game some more. But I'm actually going to play as much comp as I can to really find out. And I want to measure the discrepancy between playing a game like Valorant or Counter-Strike. They're relatively close, but still pretty different. In a game like Overwatch. Is Overwatch just easy mode activated versus Valorant, which requires training, thoughts, all sorts of stuff? Not gonna lie, Winston right now I hate. He shreds for no reason with that electricity. Right. And then you add in the fact that you can right click and you can start picking people out and dealing damage afar. It makes Winston not so much a mindless jump in and try to like start shit, but he still kind of does it. You know, again, it's the games are different, and for the most part, I think the fighting is better. But it's still hard to really say that Overwatch is a competitive FPS. And that's the part that's weird. And I don't know what they need to do to change it, because I think if Blizzard were to think of making an actual competitive FPS, would it mirror what is Overwatch, or would they both be two completely different games? Will Overwatch itself as a competitive game die and just include the PvE experience? So I didn't finish the rest of the video. So the PvE experience that we were promised is going to come out into Overwatch, but it's going to be brought over seasonally, pretty much like they have done with the Junkenstein sort of things. They'll happen, you know, probably every quarter. It might be like a massive PvE thing. We play it for a little bit, and then we just bounce back and forth between playing the two. But I don't know if I like the fact that the dev team can't decide whether or not Overwatch needs to be a hardcore FPS or if it's just a casual PvE experience. Because I think that's the thing that throws it. Playing this game, playing Valorant, they're two completely different genres. And basically what I think is just a casual game. From its competitive, quote-unquote, FPS to the PvE stuff that they're going to drop relatively seasonally, it's a casual game. And I think even the gameplay is casual. So, it's like you can be sweaty about it, like no joke. Wednesday stream, I felt sweat. I felt sweat dripping down my chest. Like you were constantly in the thralls of combat. In Valorant, you play for a minute, you might get a few kills, your heart rate increases, you win the round, you kind of stop. You know, it's like playing football. Overwatch is like playing soccer, even though there is rounds in between, but it's a lot more stuff is going on, and it's constant. Essentially what it is, to boil the entire Overwatch thing down into a concept, Overwatch 2 is nothing more than the content we were promised, but instead of dropping it on a cadence throughout the years, they stopped doing things in 2019, 2020, and now we finally got it. Full stop. That's Overwatch 2? Nah, not a thing. It is an Overwatch update. Overwatch 2 is whatever their full-blown PvE experience is. That's what that is, which we do not have yet. We just have the competitive aspect that got dropped, a bunch of new maps, a new game mode, 3 new characters, and a battle pass. It. So, we still don't have Overwatch 2. It is just Overwatch. It's Overwatch's competitive content update. But it's a good update. It's a good update compared to Overwatch pre-2019. But that's it. In terms of the content in the game and all the stuff, it's good. It's a good update. Overwatch is back, quote unquote. But I need to play it more. But even what I was playing on Wednesday, the game is fun to play the way that it is. But if you're looking for a hardcore FPS competitive game, I think the only thing you can actually look for is games like CSGO, Valorant, probably even Rainbow Six Siege. Like, that's still a pretty hardcore game. Games that feel like require a considerable amount of skill to play the way the game goes. With Overwatch, it's hard to even call it a first-person shooter because some of the characters don't even have guns. Some of the characters don't even have projectiles. It's just crosshair to target placement. So you can kind of say it is, but it's almost not, which is interesting. But I don't know. I still need to play a little bit more of it to see if I like this. I think they still need to do some balancing. I don't know if the tanks are super OP, but I think from what I've seen from other streams, you do have to attack the backline, attack the healers, hit the DPS because they're squishy, avoid the tanks, and then finish out the tanks after the fact, which, funny enough, mimics kind of the concept of playing Overwatch 1. But that's pretty much it. That's all I want to say about that. I think I might cut that up into a YouTube video, but yeah, that's pretty much my take so far with Overwatch 2, quote unquote. I'll still be playing it because I'm curious about it, but Valorant is still a game that I would have to warm up for in order to perform in and learn how to play the game better. Overwatch, I could seriously play a couple games of Valorant, and then switch to Overwatch and I'm good to go. I could probably even play Overwatch cold because the punishment in dying in Valorant is so huge. Dying in Overwatch, not so much. There's always a chance for things to swing, and the games don't last nearly as long. I played probably, 7 games Wednesday. I can only maybe play 3 to 4 games of Valorant per stream. So there's so much playability in Overwatch, and Overwatch is a fun game, but a serious game, hard to say. A serious game. A game to take seriously. Because I think that's one thing we do want as gamers, especially in competitive FPS, games that we actually give a shit about. If you were to walk into a restaurant and they're playing, sports, you got fighting, you got football, one of them's got gaming on. I saw this at, I think San Diego TwitchCon a couple years back, a couple San Diego TwitchCons ago. We went to a restaurant for breakfast and they had Counter-Strike on the TVs. Granted, it was probably because they knew it was a gaming convention, so they put stuff up that was relevant, but it was cool to see. And they had Counter-Strike on, and I was interested in watching it. Granted, they probably could have put up Overwatch League, and I probably would have watched it too, because at the time it was still fun to watch. But I haven't watched Overwatch League since they stopped doing content for Overwatch 1. I didn't give a shit. The first season, I gave a shit. Melissa and I even went to a live game of Overwatch. It was the Stage 1 finals. So it was like a serious game in the Overwatch League. And it was fun. It was a good time. But devs need to produce games that we give a shit about, that are very good at differentiating between those that sink a lot of time and energy and mental, physical power into it versus the ones that don't. And both of them can, it's obvious that the one that puts a lot of time into it can crush the other guy. Just like in real life. You put a Major League Baseball player pitching to a Little League player, dude's not going to hit shit. He's not going to hit any balls. It's going to throw 3 strikes, he's out of there. I feel like in Overwatch, especially in Battle Royales, don't even get me started on Battle Royales, but I feel like in Overwatch, that's less of an issue compared to a game like Counter-Strike and CSGO. Or Counter-Strike and Valorant. But that's what we want, I think, personally. We want a game that really differentiates between the low skill and the high skill. So that when we watch the high skill, we can be like, oh my god, the skill is melting my brain. Like, we want to see that. And I feel like you get less of that in Overwatch, because Overwatch is more chaotic, but those that control the chaos more is what I think is what we see. Anyway, let's get into another game.
Match found.
Well, at least it's nice about Valorant. Put us into a game almost immediately.